Alright guys, I'm not a doomsday prepper, but I think you should know how to build a stratified downdraft gasifier just in case you need a stratified downdraft gasifier in the future for whatever reason. So let's build one. I've got this little parts 5 horse Briggs & Stratton. I robbed the coil and the carburetor off from for my rototiller, but the engine rolls over and it has compression. We'll start there. Now ideally you would want the expansion chamber to be a 55-gallon steel drum, but I'm going to try to make this out of stuff laying around the garage here, so I'm going to try to find a muffler. This one's off from an F-150 that didn't survive an encounter with another pickup. It'll work just fine. What I'm going to do is cut this a little flatter and try to cap it off so it's sealed. I very well may be the greatest welder in the world. Now I gotta find a way to make this thing stand up. Maybe weld a leg on it, or just stick it in a cinder block or something like that. But I want it to stand up like this. There we go, I just used the exhaust hanger I cut off the muffler. I am definitely the greatest welder in the world, for sure. But my awesomeness aside, she's standing up now. Let's get on the top. I'm gonna cut a hole over here on this side for my firebox. I'm gonna try to make it as round as possible and then stick a big piece of exhaust pipe down in there. I really don't have much laying around here. Did I say big? I meant average size. Okay, I drew a circle. Now I'm going to try this thing. I kind of wish I had a hole saw, but this'll work, I think. Huh. Turns out there's more going on inside of this muffler than I originally thought. I guess I'll make this side the outlet, and we'll use this side for the firebox. That'll work, probably. Never mind, we'll keep the firebox on this side. I originally wanted the firebox down inside of the expansion chamber, but I now realize I can have a bigger firebox if I put it on the outside of the expansion chamber and just make it out of this pipe right here. It'll also be cooler. On to the next thing, making the firebox. Alright, I got that in place with some more magnificent welds. It's sort of straight. Now we need to cap off this piece of pipe and perforate it, but it still has to fit in here like this. I got that rusty piece of metal right there I'll make the cap out of. More amazing welds. It's a thing of beauty. Now I just gotta drill a bunch of holes in it. Okay, bunch of holes right there and a big hole on the side. I had to grind the burrs off that so it slid into this pipe nice and easy like this right here. On to the next thing, the outlet and water separator. I got this old clear coat can I can use for a water separator, but I'm gonna have to go to the salvage yard to see if I can find a piece of radiator hose that'll go from here to wherever that's going to be. The shape of the hose will determine where that goes, so there's not really anything else I can do right now. I'm gonna have to go do some real work. But before I do all of that, I'm gonna mix up some JB Weld and seal off every leak that I see in this thing. I'm even gonna have to go back over my magnificent welds with some J&B Weld just to make sure everything's sealed off. Okay, everything's sealed off with the JB Weld. That'll have plenty of time to harden while I wait for another opportunity to work on this thing. I'm gonna go to work, and then maybe later on this afternoon I'll stop by the junkyard and see what I can find to add to this thing. Okay, time to look at one of my amazing drawings. It's probably better to blueprint all of this before you start building, but I'm just sort of messing around here. This is what you gotta have. You gotta have a firebox so you can make smoke, an expansion chamber for the smoke to expand, a line running to a water separator so the moisture can settle, a line running into a radiator, probably with a cooling fan on it to cool it down more, and then a pipe running into some sort of vacuum. Probably a mattress inflator. Those usually work the best just so you can prime the system easier. You don't absolutely have to have this, but it makes it nice. Then you got to run a pipe into the engine. The pipe going into the engine is going to be a little bit weird. It'll have 2 ball valves on it. One to control the amount of smoke going into the engine, and a second valve that just goes out into the atmosphere to control the amount of air that you get into the engine. You'll sort of control the throttle by giving it more air. There are millions of better ways to do this, probably anyway actually, but for my outlet what I've done is I've taken this piece of pipe and I drilled these crappy holes in the side. Now I'm going to weld another piece of pipe over the side that I hit with a bench grinder and made it look like this. Then I'm going to put a little hat on it right there. I have transcended all of humanity, and I now weld at a superhuman level, at a level almost that of a spiritual being. But this is my outlet. Let's go attach this to the unit. It's attached, and my is it beautiful, but I just realized I don't really need a water separator because radiators like this Mopar one I intend to use have a drain right there. If moisture accumulates, I can just let it out of the radiator if I install it right. But I need some sort of a platform. I'm probably just going to use a pallet. Yeah, that's looking pretty good, isn't it? It almost looks like some sort of thing. Now we need a fan. I got this cooling fan from a Ford Focus. This is a Dodge radiator. I'm just gonna attach it somehow, probably with zip ties. It doesn't cover the whole thing, but I think it'll do everything I need it to. Okay, with the fan attached to the radiator, I should probably find some metal straps or something to keep this upright. It's pretty easy to knock over, but now I'm on to the outlet right here. And I found this radiator hose that fits inside of the radiator like that. I can glue that in well enough to seal it. And I bought this little mattress inflator at Walmart for 20 bucks. And I realized that this inlet right here actually fits inside of the pipe if you stretch it on. That can be glued in place. Before I do anything with this mattress inflator, I'm going to have to make some modifications. I need to seal it up completely. I'm going to cover these vents right here. Now, it won't run long with those vents covered. That little motor will overheat, but it doesn't have to run long. You don't want it to run for a long period of time with this thing completely sealed off. But I'm going to cover those vents and this seam around the inside right there with some silicone. That way it can't suck any air. You don't want it to suck air. And now that that's sealed up, I stretched this 3/4 inch nylon hose over the end of the outlet right there. Now I'm just going to glue this inlet inside of that radiator hose right there. Then I'll find a battery and get all this stuff wired up. That's on there, and my, what a work of art. Now we got to get everything wired in. This pump and this cooling fan both require 12-volt power. Now I have this battery that was too good to throw away but not good enough to leave in the car. It'll work just fine. I'm not asking a lot of it. Now if you're building a permanent fixture, you're going to want to do a better job than what I'm about to do. You're going to want switches and fuses. This is just a demonstration, so I'm really going to shred these wires, put alligator clips on them, and just attach them directly to the battery. Not entirely safe, but remember, this is only a demonstration, not a permanent fixture. There's my fabulous wiring job right there. I just have my hot wire hooked up to that battery post, and I have my ground hooked up to this battery post. Both my mattress inflator and my cooling fan are tied to the same alligator clips. The fan has to run the whole time the unit's being operated, and this pump has a switch on the side. I put this little plug in here because I couldn't find a radiator cap for it, but she's sealed now and I feel a little bit of draft right there. Now I have to make an intake manifold for this engine, which will basically just be a pipe T and a valve welded to a plate that fits this inlet right here, if my camera would show it. Now I got a box of plumbing stuff over here, and I'm sure everything I need is in here. I imagine there's a valve, I just need a T, and we're in business. That's pretty much the carburetor right there. I just need to attach it to the intake of the engine. What I'm going to do is use the gasket off from the engine for a template and make something like that, then weld it to the end of that pipe, and that'll be the carburetor. Boy, that worked out pretty good. I just gotta weld this to a piece of that pipe right there. Look what I have created. It's amazing. Now let's hook everything up. Alright guys, there we go. That's my carburetor. The red lever will be my throttle. I found a magneto for the engine, but if I'm going to run this for any extended period of time, I'll need to find an engine cover so the engine cools correctly. Now I just need some biomass fuel. Wood pellets or wood chips would be the most consistent, but I think all I have is some mesquite for a barbecue grill. I'll get that in there, get it heated up, and let's get ready to run this thing. So what I've done is fill the firebox all the way to the top with these pellets like this. Now I'm going to turn everything on. The fan has to run the whole time the unit's being operated. The pump's only got to run until the engine starts up. Once the engine starts up, we shut it off. So I'm going to go turn everything on, then I'm going to set this on fire. Now you guys remember the big hole in the firebox? Let's get her good and hot and get everything smoking in there real good. Then I'm going to set the firebox in the pipe. What we got coming out now is cold smoke. It's extremely flammable. Don't try to light anything by it. Now we're ready to start. I'm just going to close this valve and crank her up. All right, let's crank her up. Okay, I was able to shut it down by kicking the plug wire off. Clearly it's getting air from someplace I didn't tell it to. I doubt it was my magnificent welds. It was probably a hole in that radiator or something. I have some regrets, but I was able to run an engine off from wood smoke alone, and that's pretty cool. Not to mention, if you add catalytic converters, there's a lot more you can do with this. So look for those videos.